Welcome back. I've got a little project that I'm working on today. So I'm down in my basement gym and I didn't have any mirrors down here. I just had a small little dressing mirror that was actually left with the house. So I'm actually gonna put some mirrors on this wall here, and I've purchased a couple of mirrors we're gonna put up. I looked on YouTube to see if there was anybody that had put any mirrors up on a concrete wall. Doesn't look like anyone's done a video yet, so I decided let's go ahead and do that. And also I'm going to use a somewhat non-traditional method of putting up some wall mirrors. So let's do a quick tour of the shop and then we can get into it. Sorry, not tour of the shop. This is the gym, obviously. So we've got a couple of J channels here, and then these are the large mirrors. These mirrors are 5 foot by 3 foot. We're going to just stack those vertically side by side. I've got our kick bag here. We got our treadmill, got some bands, got some aerobic equipment. We've got our pull-up bar, clock, got some kettlebells, some rings. We've got our rack, and we've got our lifting platform and everything. So we got a pretty good gym going here, so we definitely need to get some mirrors in here. So let's take a look at the wall here. These mirrors should fit on this wall pretty well. They won't go all the way to the sides, but it should give us some good coverage. I already did some measurements, as you see with the tape here. That's probably a pretty good idea beforehand to see exactly how high I do want the mirror to go and how low. So for me, I thought about 20 inches off the ground seemed to be a pretty good distance. So that's exactly where I want to put it. So into the actual technical details of how we're going to put the mirrors on the wall. We're going to use these J channels here. So what this J channel is it's basically just in the shape of a J, and then the mirror slides right in here to hold it onto the wall. So I got 2 of these normally, actually, and this is the non-traditional part of my installation. Normally you just put one of these on the bottom, you put your mirror on top, and then you just have little screw tabs that you put on the tops, just little pieces that hold the top in place. But I kind of wanted a more uniform look, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a J channel on the bottom, I'm going to flip one over, put a J channel on the top, and then I'm just going to slide my mirrors in from the side so that it has that uniform look on the top and the bottom. So that's a non-traditional, so you could do that on concrete, you could do that on a plaster wall, you could really do that anywhere. So that's a bit non-traditional. Hopefully that helps someone that's doing installations. But for the concrete wall itself, we're going to have to use a couple of specialized anchors and drill bits and possibly tools as well. So to get into the details there, I'm going to use these Tapcon drill bit and anchors. And the nice thing about these is these are sold usually in the same section of the store. So if you can find these anchors or screws, you can also find this concrete bit as well. And this says 3/16 by 1 1/4. And then right here on the bit it says this is a 5/32 by 3 1/2 inch. And this is for the 3/16 anchors. So you know that you've got the right size bit for these anchors here. And so really the best way to use this bit is to use a hammer drill. A hammer drill is going to just really help you get that hole really fast, but you know, if this is just a single project you're doing, you really don't need a hammer drill. You could use this with a traditional hand drill. It's just going to take quite a bit longer. So I do have a hammer drill, so I'm going to stick this in there, drill some holes, use these anchors. That should anchor it to the wall, and then this should all work out. So to begin, what I want to do is I'm going to measure what is the width of the wall. I'm going to find the center spot, and then I'm also going to find center on the J channel, and then I'm just going to put that in there, get it level. So let's get going. So now that we found the center on the wall, we found the center on the J channel, I'll show you here. These actually have some pre-tapped holes, but they're actually kind of small, and they're not going to fit the anchors that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and drill those out so that the anchors fit. All I'm going to need there is just a regular drill bit that is good for metal, and then we can just tap this out. Let's see if I can just do that right here. This is pretty soft metal. This is aluminum, so it should go through pretty easy. Probably better to do this on a table, but All right, we've got the hole. And so this should fit in there pretty well, pretty snug. So that's pretty much what we want. Whoop. That metal short down there. So I'm actually going to tap out a couple more of these here, and then we'll get this put on the wall. Okay, so I've reamed out some holes on here so that our screws can go through, or our anchors. I've actually got 8 anchors left. They were something I had in the drawer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 5 on the bottom and 3 on the top, since that bottom is going to hold most of the weight. So these are ready to go on the wall. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to set up a depth gauge on our drill. So I actually put a different concrete bit in here. It's the exact same 3/16 as the one I showed you in the package, but I didn't want to open that one up since I already have. I found this one in the shop. And so what I want to do is I just want to take some of this painter's tape. I'm just going to rip off about 1 inch of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the screw or the anchor right onto the end here, measure how deep does that go, and then I'll just take this piece of tape, wrap it around, and that way we know exactly how deep to go. So we'll make that hole that deep, our anchor should sit right in there, and then we should be good to go. So another thing to keep in mind too is you want to always kind of pull out some of the cement as you go, and you don't want to go too fast with this. You do want to hammer it out, but you don't want to overheat the drill bit, because if you do that you can pull some of that carbide tip off. So I'm just checking the tip too. It's heating up pretty good, so I'm going to give it a couple seconds. And I actually did a test drill on another part of the wall here, and actually it went through like butter, so I don't know what it is about this particular spot. And this is the thing about pretty much any project you do, you really don't know what you're going to run into. I don't know if there's something in here, some sort of aggregate that I ran into. I don't think it would be the rebar that would be this close to the surface, but it does seem like this particular spot that I chose is a bit harder than pretty much anywhere else on the wall. So I'm going a bit slow here. I want to make sure my bit lasts, so I'm just going to go a little slow. See, you can see how it went through like butter there. So I don't know if there was a piece of aggregate in there or a piece of stone or something that I ran into, but it goes through butter now. So I think I probably got through that. I just want to take my time. I don't want to burn my bit out. So we've got our hole here. Let's get that J channel on there, get it level, drill a couple more holes, and finish this up. Okay, we've got our anchor. Get it through the hole here. And I'm actually just going to use a wrench to put this in. You obviously could use a drill, but I like to do the final. I like to do the final tightening with the wrench anyway. That way I can really feel. So I'm not going to get that too tight right now. We're going to get this level, and then we're going to have to drill 4 more holes on this. But yeah, so let's get the level out. So that looks like it's about right. I'm also going to take the tape measure and just see how we're looking. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that, so I'm going to mark up some holes. I'm going to mark up some holes here, and then we can drill them out. And so this bit isn't going to fit through these holes, so we're just going to loosen this up a bit and tilt it to an angle. That should expose the marks, and then we can just go ahead and drill these out as well. Alright, so we've got them all tapped out. Now let's just put the anchors in. Okay, I've got those all snug in there. One potential problem I'm actually anticipating possibly happening is this wall isn't a cinder block wall, so it's not perfectly level all the way across. So because the wall kind of comes out in certain places, luckily where I've got the anchors is actually pretty level, so the aluminum isn't really bending. But out here at the end, there is a bit of a gap, so I'm actually not gonna I'm not gonna tighten that flush with the wall. I'm gonna let that hang out just a slightly. The anchor will still hold it in place, but I don't want the actual J channel to bend, because if I do that, the mirror might not slide into that channel. Now the channel isn't perfectly the same width as the actual mirror itself, so we do have a little give there. But just to be sure that it's going to slide in there well, I left that anchor out on the end there, out just a bit. And then when we do that on the top too, that's another thing that I'm looking for is the top up there may not be perfectly level with the bottom here. So the mirror, as I try to slide it in, if the bottom and the top are a little off, we'll see if that fits. I think it will. I think the worst comes to worst, we'll probably have to loosen up a screw or two just to make sure that it slides in. But let's say you did have a wall and it wasn't perfect. You could use some concrete anchors like this and put up a strip of wood or something that you know is flat, and then anchor this to that itself. Or you could just put a big piece of plywood up or something like that, and then throw these on the piece of plywood. There's a ton of options that you have, but either way, you're gonna use these same basic principles. You're gonna be drilling some concrete holes, you put the anchors in, and you'll get your mirrors on the wall. So let's go ahead and measure, and then let's get that top piece on and slide the mirrors in. All right, so we've got the top part measured up, we've got the center. So we'll do the same as we did in the bottom. We'll sit the center in there, and then we'll get it level and do the other two holes. One thing to keep in mind is this J channel, from the top here, it comes down about 1/4 inch. So it has about 1/4 inch lip to hold that mirror in place. So I basically measured from the bottom of the trough there all the way up, and then I made a mark, and obviously center on the wall as well, like down there. And so that's exactly where the top of the mirror is going to lie. And then what I did is I assume that this channel will overlap by about 1/8 of an inch, since we have 1/4 here, so that gives us plenty of room to slide it in, but also plenty of the lip to actually hold the mirror in place. And then I just put this in place up there, and I marked out the hole. So let's get that drilled out, and then we'll put this up, level it up, and get it tested. Now let's say I did my measurements wrong and this was incorrect. You know, we probably couldn't drill a hole directly next to it. So what we could do is we could always go off center by about 1 inch here on the J channel, drill another hole here, and attempt again at a different space if our measurements are off. But I'm pretty confident what we got going on here is going to work. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've got it leveled up there, but at this point, the most important thing is less the level like the bottom, but that we have the perfect amount of space like we do in the center on the sides for the mirror. So I'm actually going to use the tape measure that up, and we'll see where we land. Okay, it's all measured up, so like we did before, we're just going to drill those out, screw them in, and then we should be able to slide the mirrors in. All right, we've got the holes drilled. We'll put in our final screws and we'll see if those mirrors fit. Okay, as you can see, I've got the mirror unpackaged, but before I slide it in, I'm just going to put a little of this brie wax on the bottom edge. That should help it slide a little better. Probably unnecessary, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, it's gone in pretty well. That wax definitely helped, so I would definitely recommend that. There's actually a little track on the inside, and it looks like part of this is on one side of the track and part on the other, so I'm just going to actually loosen up that anchor just a little bit, pull it up, get it in place where I want, and then I can put it back down. I could probably shimmy it in place, but not necessary, or I think it'll be a lot easier if I just loosen up that anchor. The other thing is too, this wall here, if you saw while I was putting it on, it actually made it difficult to get in there, and it kind of wedged it a bit, but I was able to get it in, so luckily everything's working out just as the way I expect. So loosening that up was allowed me to kind of move it forward into the forward part of the track that's in there. It's exactly where I want it. Looks like I got it lined up pretty good. I'm probably off by about 1/8 of an inch there, but I can live with that. So I'll slide that other side in, see if, and I'll leave that bolt a little bit loose for now too. Slide that in, and then tighten that down, get them in there, and we should be done. Okay, so I tightened down that middle bolt. This left mirror went in quite a bit easier than the other one. That's the thing when you're drilling those concrete holes. Sometimes it's hard to get an actual super precise hole, just because when you're drilling that concrete, it kind of moves a little bit, so it can move over like a 32nd or a 16th of an inch. So this one seems like the J channel was actually a little bit higher on the left side, which actually made it go in a lot easier. No problems there though. There's still plenty of lip to hold it in place. This side just a little bit more snug. So I'll get that on there and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, so we've got both the mirrors installed, and actually they turned out a little better than I was expecting. Like I had said over on the side there, I thought that the top and the bottom were off by 1/4 inch, but they actually are perfect. Perfectly flush there and plumb. I think it was just a little off because the mirror itself was a little tilted on the inside of the track, so you got to watch that, kind of shimmy it and make sure you get that level. So if we want to take a quick look at this, as you can see, the track here up on the corner, you can see where it sits in there, nice and tight, and it's nice and flush against the corner. And then also if we come down to the bottom here, same thing there, nice and flush. So the mirror turned out really well. And then also in the center here, I was a little worried about this here. So where the two mirrors meet up, as you can see, we've got a perfect seam from top to bottom. Now that's something you gotta watch out for as you're doing a project like this, because if this bottom portion here isn't perfectly level, what's going to end up happening is if you have a little, even a slight tilt here, I mean we're talking even like 1/8 of an inch from here to here, what's going to happen is this mirror is going to be slightly turned, and over the length of this you're going to end up with a gap up here, you know, or even the other way. If this side is up a little bit of 1/8 inch from here, you're going to end up with a gap at the bottom. Luckily in this case, I had it perfectly level, everything worked out. But if that did happen to you, one thing you could do is, if you had a little bit of room here, so let's say you had 1/16 of an inch gap there and it was bothering you, you could just kind of shim 1/16 of an inch here, or you could shim 1/16 of an inch there, you know, and kind of tilt the mirror a little bit if you have a little bit of room in here. Now this mirror here, I didn't really have any room. That was snug as it could be, but this side, the top piece, you know, because of that hole, wasn't drilled exactly where I marked. I did have a little bit of leeway, but luckily I didn't have to use that. But let's say I did, I would be able to put in a shim and maybe change that angle by about 1/16 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch, it really depends. But that's something to watch out for. So hope this video is helpful for anyone that wants to install gym mirrors on a concrete wall, on a cinder block wall, maybe in a basement, in a garage, something like that. That's pretty common. And then also, even if you're not installing on a concrete wall, using the two J-tracks, I think really looks good. Instead of just having the J-track on the bottom and then the tabs on the top. So I think that works pretty well. Obviously, it makes the installation a little more difficult. If you were just using the tabs, you would just put the mirror on top of the J-track, hold it up, drill a couple holes, put your tabs in there, so you wouldn't really have to worry about some of the things that I explained. But I think this turned out really well. So hopefully this helps someone else trying to install some gym mirrors, and leave some comments in the comment section.